Actually, it was, because I went up there yesterday to see what the focal length was, and it was actually less than 100 millimeters to get a full frame.
On the way far one?
Yeah. So I think you'll be all right. Let's just talk on the radio when you get there. If you don't think you can make it, or just tell me what you think it looks like.
My manpower is leaving here, so I won't have anybody to shoot it still. I guess we didn't quite understand that. But,
what's happening?
Okay, Neil's radio strap started to break, so he gave me the good one. He didn't want to take the good one. He's got another one right now. We're going to test the remote with it. He's putting it out there.
This is going to be something. All right. Okay, turn the switch on again.
Off on.
It's not working. What's going on?
he said stand by. Can you shut down?
Yeah.
We're out of film on it.
On what?
35.
I need the other magazine for this white camera. It's in that aluminum case back there. I just barely turned this thing on in time.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting through the Central Educational Network.
It's an early September morning in 1994. A film crew is documenting the destruction of the old Clark Bridge, located a few miles up the Mississippi River from St. Louis. This is the final chapter in a remarkable story of modern engineering and human perseverance, a story that would be told by Peace River Films for the acclaimed PBS television series, Nova.
Well, we like to do science that is approachable. We like to make science not be the science you had in ninth grade. It made you never want to see a science book or a science story again.
I think some of the most interesting programs come from taking things that really are part of the everyday landscape of our lives and really dissecting them. And people are just fascinated by that, really want to know how the world, both the natural world and the man-made world, is made and put together.
I thought, well, let's find a bridge that's going to be built right now and make a movie about that. And I sort of took the idea just in that form to Nova, and they were interested in it and said, you know, go out and see what there is that's going on.
So if we're going to do a story about technology, if we're going to do a story about steel and engineering and construction, let's tell it against the backdrop of bridging the Mississippi, which is a fascinating subject.
So Nova said this was an interesting bridge, let's do this one.
All right, so why don't we start doing it here, and then your guy will be down there and just bring him up.
He can start.
Producer Neil Goodwin and the principal camera crew of Dick Taylor and Eric Nelson knew that the sheer complexity of this project would prove a challenge to their collective experience as filmmakers. Yet no one foresaw how daunting that challenge would actually prove to be. One problem was the enormous amount of film that would be shot. Better than 400 rolls would be processed and logged, a whopping 80 hours of raw material to be trimmed into a 2-hour program.
And at times, I can remember this, we'd be shooting something and I'd say to Eric, didn't we shoot this before last year? And sure enough, we had. There was just such a volume of stuff that sometimes you'd forget what you already had.
The really fascinating stuff in this film is the detail. And we said to Neil, more detail, more detail, more detail.
Well, Neil's the kind of guy that always thought we were missing things. And it was funny, he'd call up and say, look, I've got to have this. Okay, so I'd go out and I'd schlep around and I'd shoot for the day, and I'd come back and I'd send it in, and I'd get a phone call. "Oh, you shot 6 rolls of film. My budget." I said, "Well, Neil, you wanted this sequence." "Yeah, but 6 rolls of film, you're killing me."
I mean, it's gray. Is that?
Well, I think most of the, winter is coming, if that's what you mean. The winter is on its way, but...
Simple logistics posed another headache. Based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, Neil was working on 3 documentaries at the same time.
One of the keys to making this all possible was finding people in St. Louis who could help with this thing, because I can only be out there myself so much of the time, and I really had to have a camera crew, local camera crew, that that could kind of stay on top of this thing and stick with it.
We weren't a Hollywood crew. We didn't have 20 guys behind us to schlep equipment. We were pretty much on our own. And that was always a problem, because if you went out on the tug, you had to take everything with you. The extra magazines, the battery, the film, because there was no coming back. Lots of times we'd be out there all day. Once the boat left, that was it. There was no going back for anything. Very, very rarely did we have the luxury of saying, "Could you do this for us again, or could you wait 2 seconds while I get this shot set up?" They didn't do it.
I can see it fine.
There's a moment I can still remember. I wish I had it, because it would have made a great deal, but this guy was cutting through a steel beam with a grinder, and he set his pants on fire. Now, we missed it. We missed it by 2 seconds.
Research for Superbridge began in early 1990. The first roll of film was shot 10 months later. It would be nearly 5 more years before the film would be completed. In terms of television documentaries, this would prove an odyssey of grand proportion.
When anything big was happening with the weather, I'd get a call from Neil. "Is it snowing there? Is it raining there? Is there a tornado there? Go out and get it. I need shots of it. I've got to have shots of that." Okay. I mean, you look at how much time you put into getting some little thing, and then you see it in the finished product, and it looks great, but you realize, boy, that was a lot of work to get that. I think the most dangerous stuff was, there were several times when we were up top and there weren't any railings at all. You just had to step off the basket from the crane onto a wooden platform that was maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet wide. And I'm not afraid of heights at all, but I have to admit that was a little, 380 feet up, you get a little queasy.
It's worth asking him
Sure.
or anybody else because it's going to be a slow day anyway. I mean, you don't want to be up there for.
Oh, I've got no problem with that. That's fine.
I mean,
He'd have to. Trying to think how we get over there now because we don't have that ramp anymore. I'll just climb up. I'm not getting out of that bucket and walking across there.
I don't know. I don't know how do you get up there?
I don't know. I may have to climb up too.
Start walking.
We need to get somebody with a radio and see if it's possible to get that. I don't think you can get that car close enough for me to climb onto the tower.
No, you can't.
You can't.
You just gotta climb up. That's what he does. That's what he does.
Yeah, I know, but I got to take the camera up.
They must have had, Dick and Eric must have had to climb up. I'd forgotten about that. But they must have had to climb up that entire tower. It's a 300-foot tower, carrying the camera and the tape recorder with them. And I guess they did that once only. It's the kind of thing you don't want to do more than once.
Maybe halfway up. What were you saying? I got one. This is our framing from yesterday. Again, we've got to try and match this position as closely as possible. Neil wanted to try a couple of different things in this and they're the kind of things that you never really know if it's going to work. And one of them was the stop motion sequences that he wanted to do. I mean, I can remember sitting out there for 8 hours just listening to that camera click and getting up every once in a while to make sure it was going okay.
Neil also wanted to experiment by animating still photographs. A local photographer revisited, permanently placed camera mounts over a period of 3 years in order to produce a series of identically aligned photos. After Neil painstakingly ordered and processed this sequence of images, he had a show segment that lasted 17 seconds.
This is a camera. This is a television camera. Very small, quite high quality. And what we're going to do is put it in this tube, which has got a waterproof seal on the end, and actually hold it underwater, and we can see the propellers of the boat on these models as they go by. Let me do that again. One more time.
In Vicksburg, the Army Corps of Engineers maintains a vast replica of the Mississippi River. Detailed experiments were conducted to analyze the original design and location of the new Clark Bridge and its potential impact on barge traffic. Once again, the filmmakers were experimenting, working to achieve an effect not fully defined or scripted in advance. In fact, it was not until the last months of editing that the footage shot here found its way into the storyline.
It's demanding. It's not the kind of film which you can build around, you know, a series of simple related interviews on a single subject, for example. This is a multi-linear kind of story that requires a lot of balancing and braiding.
Let's try that again.
You guys out here?
Huh?
Pure hell. Pure hell, that's right.
Now, why is it
Every
pure
time
hell?
we step back, oh, another camera guy. Oh. We might have a game plan out here before you walk up, and when you walk up, it's just like we vapor lock.
Yeah, one of the hardest things on this project was to form relationships with the people working on the bridge. They're construction people, they're blue-collar people, very down-to-earth, not the type of folks who are used to having a camera stuck in their face. Hey, I'm shooting, man. Jesus. Unbelievable. Grenade, man. Man, he nailed me right in the camera. Someone told me later on, this one guy just didn't like me. Just did not like me. He smacked this camera and it's screwed up. Unbelievable. But we worked so long with them that it got to be as if we were one of the crew.
I was in it last year. Last year, January. What was it, January?
How far'd you fall?
Well, I fell off that barge and I went downstream. Backstroke. 10, 15 feet. It's cold.
What time of year was it?
January.
Oh, man. The one that fascinated me the most was this guy that fell off the bridge.
What's the biggest danger?
I think that he kind of summed up their attitude. The attitude was pretty matter-of-fact, and it's a dangerous job, really dangerous job.
Well, if you go under a barge, the life jacket's going to hold you up. You're just going to slide along the bottom of that barge, and you could just get hung up.
The buzzer that you hear right there is the overload switch. It means I got too much on the crane.
It isn't even as loud as the one over there, is it?
I know it. And what do they just figure that they'll let it go, or is it?
Yeah, it doesn't throw the overload switch. There's an overload switch. There's an override switch. They'll cut it off.
If
Won't
it
let
gets
lift
too
anymore.
far, huh?
If it does that, sometimes we'll chance it, and I'll go up there and
Turn it off.
shimmy a little bit with it, and set the overload limit a little higher.
Science is an adventure. It doesn't just happen in labs. It happens on mountaintops. It happens in airplanes. It happens in space. It happens underwater. The settings are very exciting and interesting and adventurous, and people have always liked adventure programs. And the other thing about science is that basically it is a human enterprise, and programs about science should really be human interest stories.
Everybody's happy?
Well, I don't know if everybody's happy.
Well,
I've rumors of a few cost overruns.
well, now that's management.
Oh, I see.
You're letting it on too heavy. That'll be on the cutting room floor, buddy.
I'm telling you right now, we had a great time building this job. Great. This is better than building that arch. Ain't that right?
There comes a point in most documentaries when the story develops a voice of its own, when circumstances ordain the rhythm and pace. For Nova's Super Bridge, that point was no more evident than in the summer of 1993.
Okay, Eric, ready? And slate it. What does it make you feel like? I mean, is this, you get used to this kind of thing? Is this an active guide? You just have to roll with the punches? What does this do for a contractor's life and business?
A little difficult to get used to a 100-year flood rolling right through the middle.
What it did was it added a sort of an interesting layer to the story just at the point when construction, the really interesting part of construction was done.
Let me know when you're ready.
And that's one of the interesting things when you're doing a documentary, because you don't know what's going to happen. And so as a filmmaker, you're going, this is great. As a human being, you're going, this is awful.
Get ready for tail slate. Okay, do it.
Well, she's been freelancing as a wine producer. The corporate film about the chaos theory applied to management.
Oh, great. She's a good person, right?
Yeah.
I like him.
Long before all the footage had been shot or the bridge actually completed, Neil and two film editors began the daunting task of piecing together the first of what would prove to be many versions of the final program.
It's a complicated film to put together. It's complicated for many reasons. I mean, one of them is that there's just an awful lot of footage to look at and to kind of keep in your mind all at once. So I think it probably took us a month to look at all the footage and you know, mark the shots we thought we'd want to use and figure out how to select them and assemble them and things like that.
2 rolls of 72/48, 400-foot loads, please.
Come here. Come on. Come here. Yeah, come here. Good girl. Yeah. What are you doing in here? You old dog.
Did you see this one?
I don't know where the creative center of this thing is. It's not necessarily with me. I mean, it's with, it kind of depends on, it's on who's really being the most kind of productive or useful on any given day. I mean, lots of times it's these two editors are really the creative center of the film. I mean, right now they really are. I mean, all I'm trying to do is to kind of keep things organized right now. I mean, try to keep the story organized and try to figure out the running order of things. What we all are really storytellers working in the medium of film. In a sense, we're writers who write with pictures.
Which one, the wide shot? This one?
Yeah, kind of a wide shot. I mean, the thing is bouncing there. You could use it. Could you use? I don't know whether you could use it twice.
There are moments of just kind of peace out there on the bridge site, which were in many ways magic moments. I mean, I loved those times when the work was all done for the day, and you just sort of sit there at the site and watch the sunset or the sunrise. No matter what you do, it's a labor of love. There's always, you're always looking for a way of, fulfilling some kind of a dream or some creative kind of impulse.
Oh yeah, as long as they built the bridge, we know we'd be here on the day they opened it. All they had to do was finish the bridge, and they sure did that.
With a windshield factor well below zero, the new Clark Bridge was officially dedicated and open to traffic in early January of 1994.
When we create something that at some point starts having a life of its own, and that's, you miss working on something that's like that when it's all over. You do something like this for 2.5, 3 years. You leave something of yourself here. And all of those guys who worked on the bridge, especially the ones who really put in the time, left something of their self, there. more than just, bruised knuckles.
Although the engineers and ironworkers could take their memories and move on, it would be 18 months of rewrites and splicing before the film would be completed. Nearly 5.5 years after Neil approached Nova with his idea, the story of this super bridge would finally be told.
We can't use that anymore.
Can't use the sound?
No.
You don't want any of the
Yeah,
firecrackers?
but I can't use that wire anymore.
All right, well, I can use...
Yeah, it just takes sound.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting through the Central Educational Network.
This is PBS.